Okay, everybody, this is Sheets, and for those of you that did not watch the DraftKings video, I'm going to be doing this by myself today, and it's Bobby's fault that he let me do this myself today, because I mean, if he found out that I was going to come on a 4-game slate, suggest the possibility to not lock in Russell Westbrook going back to Oklahoma City, he would take my login privileges away immediately. At least he might actually murder me. You know, if I disappear, something happens to me. It's you know, I strongly encourage you to look up Bobby Firestone as the prime suspect, and he might actually, in his defense, get away with it, because he might be able to use, you know, as a very good defense that he kind of had to do it, because who in their right mind is going to fade Russell Westbrook going back to Oklahoma City on a 4-game slate? He just had to murder me, as almost self-defending, like all sensibilities and things like that. But nonetheless, it's kind of where we're headed here, because, you know, as I've discussed, why I am not the type to completely dismiss narrative street, things like that. Whether I deviate from projections and that type of thing is really a function of whether I get extra upside, and more important is whether I can get lower ownership as a result. So we're going to see, and we're going to go position by position on tonight's slate. And that's where we're going to do it on Fan Duel again, and see kind of where we head here. And again, all I can do is be honest with you guys. You know, I feel as though this is the way you should be approaching all these slates, pretty much in all sports, if you want to know the truth, is to find guys that not necessarily have to be the best projected guys, but if it's close between a couple of guys, you should almost always, I don't know, always, but you should almost always opt for the lower owned guy, unless you're giving up, you know, massive correlation, or unless you're giving up massive upside on top of projections. Like, for example, you know, we'll go through it. So let's just start right at the point guard position, for example. And at the point guard position, I'm actually showing 3 or 4 guys, that maybe even 5, that all project pretty close with respect to value. Now, again, as of now, Danilo Gallinari has actually been upgraded from doubtful out to questionable. So it's possible that Chris Paul does not project quite as well as I have him now, but I actually do think he still could end up being a pretty good play. So the 4 point guards I kind of have, actually 4.5 here, are it's going to be Derrick Rose, number 1, as far as value goes. Then there's going to be Lillard, number 2. And then there's going to be Chris Paul. And not until after those 3 do you get down to Russell Westbrook, right? And not that it's like a huge difference between all these 4. And then after that, you can go down to Ben Simmons, because, you know, what's his name? Embiid is out. So all 4 or 5 of these guys project pretty close to each other, regardless of what projection system you use. And, you know, it's going to be close between them. But then when you look at the ownership of these dudes, I'm looking at right now. I see Russell Westbrook at 45%, and all the other guys are half of that. So, I mean, for me, it's just kind of, you're just kind of forced from a math perspective to do it. You know what I mean? Unless there's some reason why he should be higher that I don't know about, or as far as projections go, or unless there's some great correlation that I don't know about, you know, Westbrook's just going to be the fade here. You know, it's just going to have to be. So, I mean, let's talk about that before we go ahead and do it. Is there a great run back on Oklahoma City, for example, that's going to make, you know, Westbrook extra good? You know what I mean? Like, is Chris Paul that great of a play to run back with Westbrook? I mean, he's fine. Like I said, he's one of the 4 or 5 guys, but I don't think that Chris Paul at 25% is enough of a correlation with Westbrook to overcome that 50% ownership that Westbrook has. I will say this, that if you are going to play Westbrook, that you should play him with Paul. Okay, just because again, you have to get something to make up for that disconnect between the ownership and the projection. So if you do play Westbrook, I would run it back with Chris Paul. But I think that the optimal way to go in GPPs, when the object is to, is to fade ownership, is to fade highly owned guys, unless there's a real reason not to, is I think that the optimal way to play is to fade Westbrook and do a combination of Lillard, Paul, Rose, and Simmons. So for now, just for the hell of it, let's put in, you want to put in Rose? That doesn't matter. Let's put in, let's just put in Simmons, I guess. She's the lowest owned of all. Actually, they're all pretty much very similar. So let's put in Chris Paul, because an interesting thing is they just, again, upgraded, what's his name, to Gallinari to questionable. So it's possible that Chris Paul could get downgraded as far as projections go. But I think that if it's coming near lock, because the game is not for 2.5 hours after, I think you could play Paul and just kind of hope that Gallinari does get ruled out, because worst case scenario, Paul is not a bad play with Gallinari in. And I think that Paul's ownership will decrease as a result of it. And you can certainly go ahead and do this. So one of those 4 or 5 guys. I wouldn't go down to guys like Sexton, maybe. Napier. Napier would be the next guy, but these guys rate as pretty good values up here. I'm hoping that we can get value in some of these other positions. We'll see. So let's go ahead over to shooting guard. Oops. I don't know what that was. So at the shooting guard position, I have, like a whole bunch of guys that look pretty close. So I don't have James Harden. Actually, James Harden is kind of like down the list for me. So I'm in no great hurry to play him, especially if I'm going to play kind of pricier point guards. So I'm looking for shooting guards that are a little cheaper. So let's just take a look at these. So Wiggins is cheaper than Harden at least, but even he is pretty expensive. Let's put him in for now. Wiggins would be one of the top guys that I would have in here. And again, let's take a look at ownership and see if I get a little bit of a break. Hold on. I mean, he's 25%. That's no bargain. You have Shea, who's 31%, 30%. You have who did I say? Josh Richardson at 30%. All these guys are kind of okay plays. Another guy who might be a little less owned is going to be Dennis Schroeder. Yeah, they have him at 10%. So another place has him at 15. So let's So again, when you have these guys that are all very similar, and that's the way I look at this, is all these guys look kind of similar, is I think that I would go on the side of the lower owned guy, and also is a little bit cheaper. So I would go with Dennis Schroeder. The next thing you could do if you wanted to go down even further is you could play Bruce Brown Jr. Or you could go down even more to the Mihulik guy. But I don't know if you're going to get any breaks as far as ownership with those guys. Yeah, they're both going to be about 20% owned. I mean, it's better than 35 or 40, but I don't know if we have to do that. Now, I'm also not too worried about Paul and Schroeder in the same lineup, but just to be pure, okay, let's take them out. Let's remove Paul from this lineup. So you already did go over that he was a good play. And let's put in one of the other guys instead. Want to put in Derrick Rose instead? Yeah, let's put in Derrick Rose instead. Okay. So let's go to small forward. Small forward, there actually is a play is kind of a standout. Let me just see and just double check something. Yeah, I think that, and again, unfortunately, you're not going to get any breaks with ownership here. And this is where it becomes tricky, so because Tobias Harris is looking to be a really, really strong play at this position with Embiid out on Fan Duel. And the next guy down, as far as value goes, it's a pretty decent sized drop to guys like Gordon Hayward and Carmelo Anthony, guys like that. Go to Chetty Osman if you want to drop down even lower. So Tobias Harris looks to be the best play, 50%. See, in this case, is he that much better than these other guys? He actually might be. So you could do that. You could play Tobias Harris, or if you want, in the name of run backs and stuff like that, if you want, you could do this. You could play Gordon Hayward, who's definitely a little bit worse, but at least you have a little Hayward versus Simmons action going on here instead of worrying about Simmons competing with Harris for usage. But we're going to run into a problem because I think we're going to may have to use another Philly guy soon anyway. But these are kind of the guys that kind of stand out. Who else do we put in a small forward? So, as I mentioned, Carmelo Anthony would be next, along with Bazemore, Chetty Osman maybe, down to Jaylen Brown perhaps. Maybe you play both of them. Maybe you play Harris and Hayward. But see, again, when it comes to ownership, these are the two highest owned guys. So what I'd probably do is, I'd look for the lower owned of these remaining guys, like Chetty Osman maybe, just because, again, he projects to be a similar value to some of these guys, and he looks to be about 10% owned. So let's add a little bit of low owned stuff to this lineup. Like, for example, like we're already kind of in business because you have like a Rose who's popular, but we're running it back with a Chetty Osman who's less so. You have Simmons, and we're not running it back with anybody yet. Okay, maybe we don't have to. And we have Schroeder. Okay, do we have to run him back with somebody? No, we're already fading Westbrook. Okay, so you don't have to run him back with a high owned guy. So let's see. Let's see maybe what the power forward position provides. Ooh, all right, so here again, there's another problem. Not a problem. The reason why is a really, really great play. There's a complete colossal standout, and that's going to be Al Horford. With Embiid out, and he's only 5,400 on Fan Duel. He's kind of a lock. I don't like to say lock or whatever, but it kind of is. He projects to be just a tremendous value. Here's actually a good point, right? So compared to, for example, Westbrook, I feel as though what I'm looking at is Horford is just significantly better value. And you know what? He is higher owned anyway. So he's 60% owned. So all I will say is this. If you are going to play Horford, which is going to be tough to not play, honestly, just make sure the rest of your build is a little bit contrarian. And it might not even be enough to fade Westbrook if you're going to play Horford. You're going to have to, mess around a little bit, okay? But Horford does look like, just so you guys know, it does look like just a tremendous play. Now the next couple of guys here are going to be Kevin Love and Covington. And then there's actually going to be Jason Tatum. So between those guys, I'm going to get back to small forward in a second, is, first of all, this natural question is who's going to be the lowest owned. So Love, 50%, Tatum, 35%, and Covington down to 15%. All right, so now we're on to something. All right, so now we can get there. So now we're going to play Covington. And now we're getting a little bit of almost of a stack situation going on, right? So if we put Covington in, now you have two guys from Minnesota. And what you could do if you wanted to, this is going to be a little tricky. Could you turn this into a stack of like a Minnesota-Portland stack? Well, the first thing I would have to do is I would just kind of have to try to see if I could stuff in a Portland guy. So let me just look at the Portland guys for a second and see at what position we just kind of missed somebody. Well, Lillard is the next point guard. So that's actually a really, really good idea. So what you can do is instead of playing Simmons at, well, let's combine, look at these guys' ownerships. This is what you do, okay? is Lillard about 20 and Simmons about 20. That's about the same. So in the name of making a correlated lineup, you're not giving up much, what do we call it, a projection integrity by doing this. So let's put in Lillard over here. Oops. And now you have a Portland with a couple of Minnesotas. And you know what else you could do? I mean, if you really want to, you could go down, as I mentioned, to Shabazz Napier at point guard, who projects to be, okay. Not the greatest play in the world, but certainly not the worst. He's just below those other guys. You can also go down to Jeff Teague if you want, but I think in this spot, Shabazz Napier is going to be kind of a little more of a little better. Or play them both. Play one in one lineup and one in the other. So now what we have is we picked good projected plays, made a couple of small sacrifices, and now you could play Horford, who if you think he's like the best play on the board, because now you're having some low-owned guys alongside them, plus you have some correlation stuff going on here too. And you have 3 Minnesotas running it back with Lillard. I mean, how good is that? Well, we'll find out, I guess. We'll fill in the small forward guy at the end. So let's take a look at center and some news. I really hope this isn't the case, but Hassan Whiteside is sick. So if he's out, is it going to be Moses Brown's season at center? I really hope not. He stinks. I shouldn't say stinks. He's just not very experienced. And even at the minimum, I just don't think he's going to get there. Anthony Tolliver might have ended up starting. I don't know. So one thing I'm not doing is playing Hassan Whiteside if he's sick. That's what I'm not doing. So what I'm looking at the center position is there's a total standout as far as projections go. And, I'm presuming he's going to be really high owned. Let me just take a look at it. But only 20%. All right. Well, for me, this is easy. You know what I mean? Because if you just saw what I saw, I mean, these projections are just so much better than any other center that, to me, I think you kind of have to do this. So the great part about it is that you can do this. In other words, like you have 6,500 left at the small forward position, and we've really done nothing completely bizarre. You want to call Chetty Osman bizarre? Okay, that's fine. What we've done is we made a GPP lineup. We made a Minnesota-Portland stack. We have the best value on the slate probably in Horford. Maybe the second value on the best value on the slate in Drummond. We faded Westbrook. So you're in business, man. I mean, now you want to go back to small forward and remind ourselves of the guys that we looked at. There was Tobias Harris, who we did not use. We can almost get him in at 6,700 if we want to do that. Okay. We can make this more of a stack. We could go with Carmelo Anthony. We could put him in. And now we got a full Portland, Minnesota thing going on. If you want to do that. And I'll tell you this, if in fact Whiteside is ruled out, they are really going to need all the points they can get out of these guys. So, boy, this is fun. This is I thought this was going to be hard. Now, again, not that this is going to win, but the way the Fan Duel slate is today, with the ownership being, you get some high-owned guys that are not necessarily going to get there, and you have guys that I think look really, really strong that are not as highly owned as some of the others. I think you can build some decent lineups on a 4-game slate tonight and not be overly chalky, which is usually my issues with these 4-game slates. I usually end up, being chalk city, but I think it's a very interesting slate. And you don't have to go play Russell Westbrook if you don't want to. Is he a good play? Yeah, he's a good play. Is he a great play? Okay. I mean, this is what I would suggest, as I did on the DraftKings video. If you are going to play Russell Westbrook, if you are going to play Tobias Harris, if you are going to play the 50% owned guys, just make sure that you either do it in a correlated lineup or that you do it alongside of low-owned guys. And I don't know. I just kind of like this slate. Now, again, if Hassan Whiteside's out, I don't know what to tell you. That's what's going to happen, obviously. So if Hassan Whiteside is out, then you know what? Then I would say just play more Lillard and Anthony. I don't know if I would go for Anthony Tolliver. I mean, he's going to start, and he's going. You know what? He's going back to Minnesota. He's min price. All right, I guess you kind of have to. Like if he's out, Hassan Whiteside is out, and Tolliver is going to get 32 minutes, and you just kind of have to play him, even though he doesn't do anything. All right, I guess that's pretty much it. Ooh, I got in just before the. How many builds am I going to make today on Fan Duel? Probably going to do just one build. When I say one build, like this is kind of my concept. My concept is going to be this Minnesota stack. So probably I'll take Wiggins out of some lineups, replace Napier with Teague, something like that. Maybe I'll put Dieng in as a center, but taking Drummond out is going to be – it's a lot of points, man. It's a lot of points you're costing yourself at the center position. So that's what I'm doing. I mean, again, now that's what I'm doing as of 3:45. Of course, everything can change with news, but that's where I'm at right now. So, again, for whatever reason, it didn't seem as egregious fading Westbrook on FanDuel as it did on DraftKings. But, I mean, it's fine. It's fine either way. You know, again, if you play him, make sure he's with lower-owned guys. And if you don't play him, don't worry about it. I mean, don't worry about all the hype, okay? All that hype is great when he's 20% owned and there's no other options. But there are options tonight. That's all I will say. All right, that's it. Nice, short, and sweet. And hopefully Bobby will come back tomorrow. And hopefully we'll have some good things to discuss.